Last week, the third and fourth chapters of Deltarune, a game made by the creator of Undertale, got announced. And as a fan of the franchise, I got way too excited. So to celebrate today, I'm going to be drawing Kris, Susie, and Noelle in my style. Since two of them are monsters, it's going to be interesting drawing them. So I'll start with the human, Kris. I decided to draw them with their soul on one hand and a knife or dagger on the other, since they like using it for certain things. In case you don't know what Deltarune is, as I said earlier, it's a game developed by Toby Fox, the creator of Undertale, which you probably have heard of, since it's such a popular game. I love this franchise so much. The story in both games is great, the characters are really well written, and you'll end up liking them a lot. The humor is great, and the music is amazing. I really recommend playing it. For now, the first two chapters are on Steam for free, so if you have the time, I'd recommend giving it a try. I am aware that a lot of people haven't played it, so I'm going to avoid to spoil anything major, but we'll use some terms that people who have played the game will understand. One of my favorite characters to draw in general is Kris. I love them so much, but they don't even talk, you may think, and you're right. But after interacting with some NPCs and Kris's parents, you can get a glimpse of their personality, and they're so funny and adorable. As I said, I love drawing them. They're one of my comfort characters to draw, for two main reasons. Reason number one, I love them. Reason number two, their design is really simple and pretty. Because of this, I have many sketches of them in my sketchbooks. I probably draw them more than I should, but that's okay. They don't usually show their eyes. If I remember correctly, in the game they only showed them once, but I decided to draw them because I like drawing eyes, so I drew their bangs a little shorter. And the only moment they show their eye, it's red, so I gave them red eyes. It's kinda cute since their mom's eyes are slightly red too. I like calling them crazy because one of the NPCs named Kari calls them crazy and also calls their brother Ozzy, and I think that's just so cute, and if she can call them that, I can too. In the second chapter, it said that Chrissy and the others are teens. I'm drawing them as if they were 13 or 14 rather than drawing them older, because comparing Kris with the other humans in Undertale and Lancer and Deltarune, who is still a kid, they're taller but not that tall, so I figured they might be on their younger teens. But I might be completely wrong though. I'm going to be drawing everybody with their normal outfits, the ones they wear on the light world. When the new chapters release, I might draw them with their dark world outfits, since I like them a lot as well. Speaking of the light world, in this video I ended up drawing these three lighteners because I had a little issue. I intended to draw the whole fun gang, all of the members, but I was a little scared because I intend to draw monsters and darkness sort of inspired by Monster High. What I mean by this is drawing them pretty much like humans in their proportions and stuff, but with most of their features, like giving them their actual skin tones, animal ears, antlers, that sort of thing, right? And that worked pretty well for Noelle, Susie, Undyne, Elphys, Tori, Gory, and the Queen to an extent, but for others, not that much. For instance, I tried drawing Azrael a couple of times, but the results weren't very good, and I figured if I draw Rousey, I might end up getting similar results, and I don't want that. Something similar happened when I tried to draw Lancer. His design is really unique and I didn't really know how to interpret it in my style. I also considered drawing Birdly, but I couldn't wrap my head around a way to draw him since he's so bird looking. I drew them holding a dagger instead of a knife because there's a kind of dagger named Kris and I thought it would be a fun detail. I tend to rotate the canvas and zoom in a little too much when drawing. I've been trying not to do this that much, but still end up doing it a lot. I hope it's not too annoying. Doing the liner was particularly complicated for all of these reasons. I tried not to zoom out too much, and because of this, my lines were very shaky and not very precise. I know liner is a very relaxing step to watch, but I don't know if it's better to show it from afar to be able to see how all of the liner come together, or from up close to be able to appreciate more all of the strokes. Which one do you like better? Based on your answers, I'm going to try to adjust things in the future. Even though I've drawn Kris a lot of times, I couldn't draw a face that I was completely happy about first. It took me a bit, but ended up liking their face a lot. Since they're aloof, I wanted to show that in their face, and even though it took me a couple of tries, I think I succeeded. While coloring Kris, I started by shading their top, and undertale it said that humans wear shirts, but I always default to draw them wearing sweaters. So I did that for Chrissy. Now that I think about it, I should try to draw them wearing shirts since that's probably more lore accurate. For these drawings, I tried something slightly different to what I usually do when coloring hair. I tried adding bigger and stronger highlights on the side that's facing the light source and made the opposite side darker. It's not very different, but it felt a little weird at first. Their skin is a very saturated yellow in the game, but I gave them a more human-like skin tone. It's still on the yellow side, but a little bit toned down. In coloring the skin, I usually add blush to the cheeks, nose, knuckles, fingers, and sometimes the lips, depending on the character. After that, I add shadows on the nose, under the chin, on the eyelids, under the hair, and any other place that needs it, like the hands in this case. I wanted to make their soul glow, but since I wanted to keep everything soul shaded without any strong lighting scenario, even though I added a odd layer to their soul, it's not very noticeable. Lastly, I shaded their eyes. I'll explain the way I shade eyes more in depth in the next drawing, and after that, Kris is done. I'll save the final reveal for the end so you can see all of the pictures together. Now let's see Susie. I decided to draw her with her arms crossed, looking confident. I think this shows her personality quite well. When drawing poses, I start by drawing simple shapes that resemble very roughly the parts of the body. I do this to see if I like the way the body looks. If that's the case, I refine it even more. Since this is such a simple pose, one sketch was enough to plan out the pose, so I refined it more and added her face, hair, and clothes. I have drawn Susie a lot in the past, not as much as I've drawn Kris, but still. Every time I draw her face like I normally would, more round and baby-like. I know her face is long in the game, but I do this as a stylistic choice. I hope she still looks like herself though. I try to draw her hair as similar as I could, but depending on the sprite it looks a little different, so I mainly reference her front-facing full body sprite. I wasn't quite sure about how to draw her clothes. I didn't know if the purple piece of clothing was a dress shirt, a blazer, or something else completely. At first I wanted to draw it as a blazer, then I changed my mind and wanted to draw it as a shirt, but the way I drew the folds made it look like it still was a blazer since they're a little too thick, and luckily it doesn't look too bad. I was really scared because since blazers are more formal and she's not particularly formal, I thought it would look really weird, but thankfully it doesn't. And they still look like their clothes, so that's okay. My thoughts about Susie have changed a lot. In my first playthrough of the first chapter, I hated her. In my second playthrough, I didn't like it but didn't hate it as much as I did before. But after playing the first chapter for the third time and the second chapter for the first time, I ended up liking her a lot. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I'm more mature now, or if it's because after playing both chapters back to back, I could tell that she's grown a lot as a character and is more likable. Something similar happened to me with Leancer. At first, I didn't like him and thought things like, ugh, he's so annoying. And now I love him. I ended up loving him in my first playthrough, not third, like in Susie's case. But yeah, I love these two. I love their friendship. I love their dynamic. They're so cute and funny together. I just love them. Even if her skin is purple, I still add blush, since it adds more life to the character whenever I do. She has something purple under her eyes and her spray. I interpret it as eyeshadow. Since she's a teen, I guess it makes sense. Her sclers and teeth are yellow. I try to respect this detail, but toned it off a bit. Another of my creative liberties was to color her irises with a more saturated and darker yellow instead of black as they originally are. I did this because I thought if I used the original colors in my style, it might look a little off. When shading her hair, I tried doing something similar as I did for Kris, but since Susie's hair is a little darker, it was a little harder to add shadows that weren't pure black, but still were dark enough to create a bit of separation in the hair. For the eyes, I add a shadow in the sclera, then I add a dark tone in the middle of the iris, and draw the pupil. After that, I add some lines around the iris to make it look a little bit more round and more detailed. After that, I added a layer set to add, drew a circle in the bottom and an oval on top of the iris. Then I added some dots around the iris, and lastly I added some white highlights, and Susie is done. Now it's Noelle's turn. For her, I decided to draw her a little shy and awkward, kind of imitating her expression when she talks about Susie. By the way, I love the moment when she says, I'd literally die. It's just so funny. Speaking about Noelle and Susie, I don't know if I'm just too innocent, too naive, or what, but at first when she offered Kris to switch teams, I thought she meant Kris joining her team and letting Susie team up with Burley, or when she offered Elfie to accompany Susie to get more chalk, I thought she wanted to go instead of Kris to avoid them interacting with the bully of the class, since she's their neighbor and their relationship was the closest Kris had to a friend. I thought she wanted to protect them. I didn't even think it was because she has a crush on Susie. When I found out, I was shocked. I was like, how come I didn't notice this before? By the way, I think it's really funny that Burley has a crush on Susie too. It's just hilarious. It makes me laugh. Out of these drawings, Noelle's was the one I finished faster, which is interesting since she's the one I've drawn least. I think I've only sketched her twice in my sketchbooks, and that's pretty much it. Whereas I've drawn the other two a lot more in my sketchbooks, and also her pose was just as easy as Susie's, so I don't know why I drew this a lot faster than the others, but I'm not complaining. Noelle's face is longer in the game too, but I also made it look more round to fit my style and decided to draw her nose as I normally would. Like I said earlier, I wanted to draw them like I would normally draw a person in my style, but still make them look like themselves. Because of this, I tried drawing her teeth, but it looked a little weird. I ended up drawing them in a more subtle way. I also tried drawing her eyes like how they look on her sprite. It's funny because all of these drawings have very different looking eyes, and faces for that matter. I often struggle to make my style look consistent, and even though I made the drawings back to back, they don't look like the same person made them, or at the very least, they don't look like the same person made them on the same day. So it's really weird. Even though I didn't draw her deer nose, I still painted it red, so she still looks like herself. I added blush to her face, hands, ears, and even on her antlers. I don't know what I was thinking because that doesn't make any sense, but it's a little late for regrets now, and if we interpret it not like blush on her antlers, but as a normal color shift instead, it doesn't sound that stupid anymore, so that's okay. I kept the coloring on her clothes pretty simple like I did on the other two. I used a layer set to the layer mode multiply on top of the layers with her clothing. I did this so I didn't have to shade everything individually. I do this mostly when the character I'm drawing has patterns on their clothes, like in Noelle's and Kris's case, but I might also do this if I'm just lazy and I don't want to shade everything individually. It depends on my mood. Her eyes are black in the sprite, but I decided to add brown highlights because most of the time black eyes look black from afar, but when you look at them from up close, they look dark brown. So that was what I was going to do, but at some point I thought maybe they're just supposed to be black and maybe I should use gray instead. And there was a lot of back and forth, adding gray highlights, adding brown highlights, and even blue at some point. But yeah. In the end, her eyes turned out a little too brown, but that's not too bad, I don't think. Okay, Noelle is done. Now let's see all of the finished pictures. Which one's your favorite? I love doing this not only because I love drawing my dear Deltarune characters, but also because I love drawing non-human characters as humans, like I did in this video where I drew Cooker and Kingdom cookies as humans. I'll link the video right here in case you're interested. See you there, bye bye!